This week's edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com. Welcome to the next edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We're talking to Noah Washington, who is with the Atlanta Voice and also does some work with WABE. And we jumped right into it already. But I had to get my little intro in there so people know what they're listening to. But we were talking about the comics, and I think you said you've got some boxes in your basement too.
Yeah, and even cooler, I'm going to tell you how I first got into the world of journalism and commentary, which was with the Black Press USA and the NNPA. And this is around 2019. They said that they wanted to zero in on the blurred Black nerd audience. And so I was connected with a lady by the name of Dr. Nzinga Burton, who at the time was the professor of journalism and film and television over at Emory University. She read some of my work previously, and they gave me the job. And so for a while, I had a column in Black Press USA and the NNPA called The Blurred Binder, where we unraveled all of blurredom. I wrote some commentary about the things that were happening around the 2019 through about 2022, well through the pandemic, doing interviews, doing social commentary and everything Black nerd culture, right? I see you have some Iron Man, a Doctor Who TARDIS pinned up there. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I'm a fan of Ncuti Gatwa's. He killed it. Fantastic Four, X-Men. So yeah, that was my first real job in journalism, was with the Black Press doing this binder. You could see some of the work. You can still Google it. It's on my muck rake and circulating around the internet.
All right, Mitch here with a little reminder to subscribe today to our Leff Atlanta Media database, the best database of Atlanta media. You get to search all the media in town, get to look at their beats, get the contact information, get to know what they like. You also get our great PR guidelines. You learn how to do PR. You get our media blog, Mitch's Media Musings, and you get to see our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. So subscribe today.
Oh yeah, she's great. I catch up with her once in a while, but she's a mover and a shaker in the entertainment space, and she's a little bit of a moving target trying to catch up to her and keep up with everything that she's doing. Let's start with this. Kind of walk me through. Excuse me. Kind of walk me through your role at the Atlanta Voice. And then your kind of the work you're doing with WABE also, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I'm a general assignment reporter with the Atlanta Voice. I've been there since 2022. How I got there was I actually am a bit of a playwright, and they originally wanted me to. I sat down with them for an interview about the recent play that I did with Ann Hill Bond, who was there at the time. And then I met a great guy by the name of James Washington, who became my mentor. And he remembered my work for the aforementioned NNPA and Black Press USA. And he looked at me and he said, "Hey, kid, do you want a job?" It was a movie. Unfortunately, at the time, Marshall Lattimore, who was the editor-in-chief, had passed away. They were restructuring, and they included me. I was blessed to be included in that mix of reporters that would reinvigorate the Voice at the time. Down the road after all my work, and related to the same play that I earlier put on, WABE asked me to interview for a host position on their show Redefining History. I originally did not get it. A fellow and my former African-American history professor, Dr. Maurice Hobson, he originally got it. And so they filmed one episode with him. And then they called me in the winter of 24. They said, "Hey, Noah, we have, we're reopening up the position. We would love for you to interview for it again." And so I got the gig hosting Redefining History. We aired our first episode last month on Hank Aaron. And now tonight, as of recording this, April 20th, we're going to air the episode on my great-great-grandfather, Booker T. Washington, and the Cotton States Exposition.
That's great, and gotta say, it's just cool that Booker T. Washington is your great grandfather. That's an awesome connection. You never know with people's names. Sometimes I'll, you know what I ask, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, Washington's kind of a name you hear a lot,
it's
but that's
super common name.
Yeah, Yeah.
Super common name. Listen, for the longest time, I was hoping I was related to Denzel, but even a funnier story. My brother's name is John, and Denzel's name is John. Denzel's son's name is John. So two John Washingtons, and both of them went to Morehouse College. And my brother ran into a story where their financial aid office was like, "Wait a minute, didn't you already go here?" So,
Yeah, that's when you go like, yeah, my cousin Denzel. I used to do work with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and Denzel is an alum, and every year he gives like a day of his time to just do interviews about his time with the Boys and Girls Clubs. So I would tease people on conference calls. You know, I would type in Denzel Washington instead of my name, and then the voice would announce Denzel Washington has joined the call, and people were like, really, Denzel Washington? And I still do that once in a while, just to mess with people.
I love that. I love that. But yeah, that's how it all began.
All right, so for the voice, talk to me about what kinds of stories do you have a beat, or are you kind of very general? Talk to me.
Yeah, so as general assignment reporters, we do a bit of everything. But within the newsroom, there are certain topics that our editor-in-chief, Donnell Suggs, knows that we like to tackle, right? I love the arts in particular. So anything art-related, whether it be fine art to movies and television, to big scale, even music. Not so much music, but anything in between that I love to do. I love going out and meeting the artists, anywhere from the High Museum down to street graffiti artists. I love meeting them because they have different stories from their artistic practice comes from. You know, they're all different and none of them are alike. And it's great being able to sit down and talk to those folks. I always had the belief, and I'm paraphrasing W.E.B. Du Bois, that if art does not serve a purpose, then what was the point of it to begin with? And I believe art is important in these political times, these changing political times, as we go deeper into the current administration. Art is what reminds us of why we are here and what we are contributing to society.
Yeah, it's probably worth, and I should have done this maybe at the beginning, kind of take a step back and kind of explain for that one person listening who doesn't know what the Atlanta Voice is. How would you describe? How do you describe the Atlanta Voice? How does Danelle design? How does your editor say when someone says, "What's the Atlanta Voice?" Here's what I want you to say.
Yeah, so the Atlanta Voice is the oldest in-print newspaper in Atlanta. We are currently celebrating 60 years going into next year. And the Atlanta Voice serves the African American community and the wider community. The slogan is, "A people without a voice cannot be heard." And so we try to get into the nooks and crannies, the back alleyways, talk to the people who are traditionally not heard of in any given situation, even in popular, well-known, talked about conversations that are happening. I just mentioned the aforementioned Donald Trump administration, right? What does this current administration look like to the person living in the West End of Atlanta, right? How does it affect them? And those are the stories that we try to tell.
So we were talking about the Voice. How long has the Voice been in publication?
60 years. We're celebrating our 60 years in 2026. And it's the Atlanta Voice is a family-owned operation. Started with J. Lowell Ware, and was passed down to his daughter Janice Ware, and is now going to the leadership of Richard Dunn, transitioning from COO to leading the operations at the Atlanta Voice.
And how long have you been with the paper?
I've been with the paper since 2022.
So you got some time under your belt there.
Yeah.
And I know, and just so folks know, so the paper it's both a print version and a digital version, or just digital?
No, both. We are one of the few print papers left in Atlanta. There was a bit of there was a decision or a reckoning at one time. Do we still print, save them money that way? Or do we still release them? Coming into the World Cup, the discussion was had, and it made all the sense to keep print, knowing that the world was coming to Atlanta.
So you guys will have some special World Cup sections and World Cup editions in June and July, probably.
Listen, I am going to hold on to every single one that I get, because I promise you, for anybody watching this, you'll want to keep your editions because you'll never know what it'll be worth years from now.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, and I honestly, I usually read the digital print edition on the website. Is usually where I go on Fridays. So,
oh, listen, as somebody who works there, I anxiously wake up every Friday, like looking at what stories made it into print this week. And usually we have a roundup, right? But we don't always get the full. This article is what's going to go to print. Donnell usually leaves that as a prize for us, so I'm always excited to see just like what happens walking into the meetings.
Yeah. So obviously you're a Black focused newspaper. Yeah. Is there a way that you define what your coverage is supposed to do, what you want it to do?
So I know how I go about it, and the entire newsroom feels the same, or at least has the same sentiment, right? It needs to affect the people, right? If it's not something that has an outcome to the people, then typically we will not talk about it, right? Whether that is, hey, this is a great movie that I'm seeing the Michael Jackson movie tonight, right? If that's something that the people want to know about and go see, right, then we write about it, right? Anything that covers Atlanteans at large, we'll cover, right? Like even openings, like a Barry's Midtown Gym opened like last month, right? That is worth covering because that's now a place where people at large can go to work out, right? So it has to have a people-driven objective.
Geographically, do you find that do you find your readers all over Metro Atlanta, beyond Metro Atlanta? Where do you find your readers coming from?
Our readers are national. And even international, right? Early on in my career, I was very lucky to go to South Korea on behalf of The Voice, right? Some of my counterparts have been to Colombia. I've been to Kentucky, right? Like there are Atlanta Voice readers. In the age of the internet, you could really go anywhere and anybody could read what you put. I remember I was in Indianapolis visiting my brother-in-law and my sister, and I ran into a person who read my article on the Spelman opening of the Innovation Center, right? The new Innovation Center that opened last year. And it's like, that's such a crazy thing that people have read my work, you know, all the way in the middle of the Midwest of the country, right? So it's really unique. Atlanta may be our prominent reader base, but it is not our only reader base.
Okay. Do you guys have one of those things where, like I was watching the Today Show the other day, and they had this whole section at the end of the show where people who took the Today Show coffee mugs around the world. Like, hey, here's our viewer Steve, and who's in Singapore drinking from his coffee mug. Something like that.
Dude, that is super cool. We don't do that, but that's a new idea. We always give each other gifts when we're coming back from a location, right?
Could you do like a social media thing where you take a picture of yourself reading the Atlanta Voice. And we'll put it on our page on Tuesdays or something like that.
Dude, that's a good idea. That is a good idea.
And that's free. I'm not going to send you guys. I'm not going to charge Donnell for that. All right,
I appreciate
that. So you were saying, so you're a general assignment reporter, but
yeah,
are there certain kinds of stories that you want to write or that you love to write? Sports or entertainment or?
I love politics. That might be ancestral in nature. I love politics. I love arts and culture in particular. The only thing that I typically don't like writing about sports and music. And that's so funny to say that because I do enjoy film and television and fine art. But sports and music are typically the things that I try to, if not avoid, right? But I know people who are so much better at it than me in the newsroom that I just try not to step on their toes. Now, the other side of that is my editor-in-chief, Donnell Suggs. He has a lock on sports. So I can't even get into that, even if I tried.
I was gonna say that dude is at every football game, every Hawks game. He is. If there is a ball being thrown somewhere or kicked, he's there watching it.
100%. And his dedication to that is what I try to emulate in my writing. We had a discussion the other day where he kind of joked on me. I wrote about the Reverend Dean Joseph Carter retiring, and I didn't even realize how much I had read his work because I worked in one of his headlines from a previous story into that headline. And I was like, and he was joking with me. He was like, well, if you're going to, I forgot exactly what he said, but it was along the lines of, if you're going to copy, you might as well copy from the best.
There you go. There you go. But so, what do they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, as they say, right?
Exactly.
Are there some topics, and you mentioned World Cup, are there some other topics that you are particularly interested in following, covering down the road that you've got on your radar? Say, really, this issue is important to our readers. Here, we want to cover this.
Yeah, down the road, I definitely want to do the 2028 election. I've been able to do regional work, but the 2028 and some of the presidential work last year during the 2024. But I definitely want to get in the 2028 election. I think that's going to, like most Americans and most publications, that's going to have a huge impact on the history of the world. And so definitely, and Georgia's a hotspot. Georgia is probably the greatest city on the planet. Atlanta in particular, the greatest city on the planet because of the convergence of all of these things happening. So I definitely want the 2028 election. I'm putting on my radar.
Is there, kind of short term, other than World Cup, are there some other issues that you're seeing in Metro Atlanta that are affecting your readers that you think, okay, I want to be covering?
I definitely, and the mayor has spoken upon this, his neighborhood reinvestment program. During the 1996 Olympics, right, there was a lot of displacement as a result of the rising living costs. And this mayor, Andre Dickens, has done a great job trying to address the homeless and the misplaced problem that we have in this city. But I definitely, when the World Cup really kicks into gear, I definitely want to see the after effects of that, because I want to know, will the same costs of living be reflected in 2026 that it was 30 years ago in 1996?
Yeah, and that's interesting. And there's a lot of conversation about legacy around big events like this. The Olympic legacy was Centennial Olympic Park and some other venues around the city. Most of them didn't last long, other than Centennial Olympic Park and the horse park out in Conyers, and the stadium, which is now the Georgia State Stadium, right? Since the Braves moved north. But I think the World Cup legacy is a little bit different in terms of physical legacy. So it's going to be interesting to see, what does FIFA leave to its host cities. And I don't know the answer to this question. What is FIFA going to leave to the host cities? What are we going to? What's visibly still going to be here in Atlanta? What are people going to enjoy or feel or benefit from 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So that's interesting, and I like that you're going to kind of follow that after the World Cup is gone in August, where keep the follow up and say, okay, we did all this. Now what is the city? What is the city getting? Yeah.
What is left? Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about WABE. Anything about WABE that we didn't talk about yet?
No, that's been one of the most special moments or time periods in my life. I didn't say this, but I've actually, and you don't know this, Mr. Mitch, but I've been through 3 brain surgeries. And so the belief that someone had to allow me to get in front of the camera to tell, not tell unknown stories, but to revisit past stories of Hank Aaron, of my grandfather, was truly honorable, because I went into theater to help me with my speech impediments, with memorization. And so it's really special that I get to show how far I've come since then. My mother is super proud. Shout out to my mother. And so it's been super special to take part in that. So yeah, I watch the new episode April 20th on WABE YouTube or locally or on PBS Passport.
Okay. Good. And I would imagine, writing for print is a different mental muscle than doing radio or, obviously doing radio. It's some certain skills or certain abilities are the same, but it's kind of some different things that you have to do for each.
Totally.
Right.
But, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're transferable skills for sure. The ability to talk to people, to make it sound authentic, definitely transferable skills.
It's interesting. I talk to people a lot about that, especially sometimes I'll talk to journalists who are kind of transferring out of journalism into a marketing or PR communications field. And what I'll always tell them is, the things you do as a journalist, organization, presentation, research, all of those things translate into lots of other things. So sometimes they'll tell me like, I'm a TV reporter. I don't know how to do anything else. And I was like, well, yeah, but you're a TV reporter, but you can do these 10 things. These are your skills that you can use anywhere else in all kinds of other jobs. Well, let me jump to. I'm going to jump to. This is the hard question, right? This is the hardest question that I ever ask people. So, what is the coolest thing about NOAA that people might not know?
Oh man, the people do not know. I think I gave away a lot of it. I don't go around touting my lineage, mainly because Booker Washington is seen by academics and scholars as a controversial figure in African American rights history. So, but that's not the reason. The main reason is because my father taught me you want to be known for the skill sets that you have acquired and the works that you've done, right? I'm not particularly a religious man, but the Bible says he shall be known by his works. And that's the philosophy I take into my daily life. The other one is probably that I've had 3 brain surgeries. Even though some people might call me crazy, I try my best to let it not be known. And showcase my skills as an everyday person who hadn't had this huge moment in his life.
Do you ever watch The Big Bang Theory?
I do watch The Big Bang Theory.
Sheldon always says, "I'm not crazy. My mother had me tested."
Exactly. But my mother might say that the test came out that you were.
All right. So the next couple of questions are, I call this kind of the lightning round. So we don't have to get into huge details, just kind of short answers to a couple of fun things about NOAA. So what is and pick one or the other, either the last book you've read or the last podcast you've listened to?
Oh, gotcha. The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. That was the last book I read. The last podcast I listened to was, I don't want to call this a podcast because radio and podcasts are pretty synonymous right now. But Closer Look, that is available on the WABE NPR app. I don't get to tune in live every time, but I love Rose Scott, and so I'll listen to it as if it was a podcast after the fact. And then there was one
re-airs at 8:00 every night.
Yep, exactly.
The famous Rose is awesome. Okay, yep. Favorite local restaurant.
Okay, I'm about to turn some folks on to something, right? Actually, no, in my mind, I just competed with Barbecue Kitchen. It's right on East Point, between East Point and the airport, right? And well, I guess that would make it College Park. It is the best food that you can have for a cheap price. I'll leave it there. Okay, that's good. My encouragement for people to go.
All right. Favorite guilty pleasure.
Okay, I'm on a bit of a health kick right now. And so the thing that I started off the year 200 pounds, I'm 185. So this little sneak away that I'll do that I probably need to stop doing is a Coca-Cola.
Yeah, if you can switch to a Coke Zero or water,
Exactly.
that's always a good one.
Listen, right here, right here. Either that
There you go.
or a good cup of coffee.
All right, favorite local getaway.
Favorite local getaway. I
Someplace where you want to
love
get away from it all.
Majestic Diner.
Oh, that's a good
Majestic
one.
Diner. I treat
That's a good one.
myself. I treat myself every Saturday. Every Saturday or Sunday that I can, I go to Majestic Diner.
That is a great place. I don't get there as much as I used to when I used to live closer over there, but yeah, that's just good comfort food.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What's your favorite non-work hobby?
Non-work. I work all the time, so that's super hard. Gosh, that's a good question. Okay, so this is as a fellow nerd. Recently, my brother and I have reconnected with our childhood. I have a twin brother named John. We've reconnected with our childhood, and every Sunday, we either do one of two things. We either play tennis near my house, or we play the classic children's card game Yu-Gi-Oh.
Very good. Very good.
Yep.
All right, we have been talking with Noah Washington with the
Thank you.
Atlanta Voice and also Side Biz with WABE. I'm going to put some notes about where you can find his WABE work and his Atlanta Voice work. As always, folks, if you want to find our archive of 4 Questions Journalist Spotlights, go to YouTube and just type in number 4 Questions Journalist Spotlight, and you get the video version if you want to see what Noah looks like. Or if you want the audio version, if you don't care what we look like, or you think we're ugly and you don't want to have to look at us while you're listening, go to Amazon or Apple Podcasts or anywhere you get your streaming podcasts, and you can listen that way while you're playing tennis or working at the gym or just commuting. And of course, if you're looking for our Leff's Atlanta Media database, there we go. Our database of Atlanta Media. Go to leffsatlantamedia.com and click that subscribe button, and you'll get the best database of Atlanta media in town, and we'll get you all set up. And Noah, thank you so much for taking some time. We really appreciate it. I forgot to ask you, what does the T stand for on your hat there?
This is Tuskegee
Okay.
University.
Okay.
Yep.
I was thinking, okay, it looks familiar, but I don't want to.
Yep.
I don't want to pick the wrong school.
Yep, designed by my good buddy who has a clothing line in Bloomingdale's called Brain Love.
Very good. All right. Very good. All right, folks. We will see everyone in 2 weeks.